It has officially been 9 months since the first video on this channel, probably going on 10 by the time you're seeing this. And it's crazy to me because we've already hit 10,000 subscribers. That's something that I would have never imagined when I started this project, and I really do want to thank each and every one of you for subscribing to Solace and watching these videos. I realize that not every video is going to be relevant to you, but my goal here isn't to be a generic self-help channel. I feel like those channels are lame and honestly just people spouting out information on things that they have no idea what they're talking about is kind of exhausting. So I get that you may not tune into every single video, and that's okay. I really do appreciate all of the views, all of the comments, and all of the support that this project has gotten. Seeing all of the heartfelt, personal messages about how these videos have actually impacted people really does touch me in a way that I did not expect to happen with this channel. And the support has been overwhelming, so I just wanted to start this out by saying thank you. With 25 videos uploaded, there are now over 4 hours of content on this channel, and I realized that a lot of people aren't going to want to go in and click every single one of these videos and watch a bunch of ads every single time one of them starts. So I decided to make this sort of compilation of some of my favorite videos on this channel within the last 9 months. I'm not saying that each of these are going to apply to you, but here's about an hour and 30 minutes of Minecraft content with me blabbering on about things that I feel are important. So if you like that, I hope you enjoy this video. If you don't have to watch this. It's not for everyone. It's just for people who maybe want to feel a little bit better going through their day and need something to help them do that. So enjoy this compilation. Again, it is a mashup of some of the videos from this channel that I find the most important, and I'll come back at the very end of this video to talk a bit more. You know, sometimes it's easy to feel like you're stuck. Like you can't make up your mind about what you want to do in life, or like you're not in control of your circumstances. But to be honest, stuckness is usually just an interpretation, a misinterpretation of your reality. So what do I mean by this? Well, you have to ask yourself, are you really stuck? Or are you scared of taking a risk? Now, there are circumstances where you may be stuck and things are out of your control. But a lot of the times you can break out of that by taking a risk. Let me explain. So as a human, you don't want to let other people down. You don't want them to think negatively of you. You don't want to embarrass yourself, and you don't want to fail. It's scary to do those things. But I've recently begun to realize something. Nobody cares. Let me tell you a story so that this makes sense. When I was in high school, I was in an engineering program. Not because I loved engineering, but because my parents wanted me to be an engineer when I got older. So I spent 4 years studying engineering topics. Did I enjoy it? Absolutely not. Did I have to do it? Absolutely not. Was it even my choice? No. In fact, I don't think I even knew how to think for myself back then. So I went through 4 years of this engineering program, hating every single second of it. Then I got into college, and guess what I did? I decided to go for engineering. Did I want to go for engineering? Not really, but again, my parents wanted me to. So I spent an entire semester, my freshman year, living in a new city without many friends, trying to suffer through something that I hated. And after a lot of thinking, I finally came to the conclusion that, you know what, maybe I don't want to pursue engineering. See, this was unthinkable for me before this time. The idea of not doing engineering wasn't even a possibility. I kind of just accepted the fact that this is what I'm going to be doing. I mean, it's just the most logical path. But the thing is, I don't think I really believed it was the most logical path. I think it's something that was ingrained in my head through the years and years of my parents telling me that, oh, you need to be an engineer. They make a lot of money. You should do that. So one day I woke up and I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to do this. So after thinking about it and stressing about it for a long time, I told my parents, hey, I'm going to switch my major from engineering to marketing. A prestigious STEM degree is being thrown out the window in exchange for something related to business. Something that's just so easy and uninteresting that I'm never going to make money, I'm never going to be successful, and I'm probably going to be homeless in 3 years because I didn't pursue what I was supposed to pursue. And I told my parents. They weren't upset visibly, but I could tell there was some undertones there where they were disappointed with my decision. Oh, marketing? Are you sure that's what you want to do? I mean, are you even going to be able to find a job in that? I mean, does that even pay well? All these questions were asked, and like I said, they didn't openly tell me that's a bad idea, but they kind of gave me doubt about my decision. Then I started thinking again, is this really what I want to do? Maybe I should go back to engineering. It just seems so much more practical. Like, I could get a higher paying job and be more comfortable and blah, 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 blah. But again, that wasn't me thinking. That was me interpreting what other people wanted me to do. But I stuck with my decision, and over time, I began to notice something. My parents actually didn't care. Within 1 to 2 months of realizing that I've made the decision that I'm not going to do engineering and there's nothing they can do about it, they just kind of stopped thinking about it. Sure, maybe they had some disappointment that they hid inside and, kind of bottled up, but ultimately, they moved on and life continued, and now I work professionally in marketing, and it's going pretty well. In fact, it's going much better than it would have if I would have done engineering. And when I say that they don't care, I don't mean that in the sense of, oh, I mean nothing to them. That's not what I mean by they don't care. What I mean is, your decisions really only matter to you. In the grand scheme of life, people are going to forget the things that you've decided. People aren't going to hold a 20-year grudge over your decisions. As time moves on, these people are focused on their own life, and in the grand scheme of things, nothing that you decide really matters to them one way or another. People live selfish existences. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I'm not going to debate, but it's undeniable that the most important thing in basically everyone's lives is themselves. So why do you care what other people think about your decisions? If your parents can eventually get over a decision that you made that they disagreed with, imagine how quickly it would take any other random person to get over that same decision. Maybe you want to move to a new city and get a fresh start, but you're scared of what your friends are going to think about you. They've said things like, oh, why would you want to do that? That's such a waste. Or, dude, why would you ever want to move to that place? I mean, you're just setting yourself up for failure. You should stay here. A lot of people tell you things and give you advice, but ultimately, a lot of the advice that you get from these people is for selfish reasons. Let's say you're in a relationship and your girlfriend or boyfriend says, oh, well, I don't think you should take that job. I mean, you're going to be working so far away from me, and it's just, it's such a far drive, and, you're going to spend so much time in traffic, and, it seems like it's not worth it, so maybe you shouldn't do that. Okay, sure, maybe they're trying to look out for you by telling you those things, but ultimately, you probably already know them. Let's say you take a job an hour away. Obviously, okay, now I have to drive an hour. The real reason that these people are giving you the advice that they're giving you, even if they don't realize it, is for somewhat selfish reasons. Maybe your boyfriend or girlfriend just wants to be able to see you more, so they're saying things that'll turn you away from that decision where they can see you more. Maybe your parents want you to become an engineer in college like mine. Why is that? They want to gain clout in the parent space about having a kid that's an engineer. Do your parents really care that much if you sit in an office crunching numbers and making logistics more efficient as an industrial engineer? Do they really think that's peak existence for what it's like to work in, a modern day job? Probably not. I'm leaning towards the belief that, they want you to do that because they want to be able to tell other people that their kid is an engineer. I'm going all around here, but my entire point in all of this is to let you know that nobody cares about what you do. So there's no reason to be scared of taking a risk because of other people's reaction to it. Let's say you want to start a business and you fail. Okay, who's going to remember that failure in 5 years? Unless you're Sam Bankman-Fried and you scammed a bunch of people out of millions of dollars and that's why you failed, nobody's going to care whatsoever about the time that you tried to start a coffee shop and it didn't work. Or the time you tried to start a YouTube channel and you thought you looked stupid so people judged you. I'm telling you, just go for it. People are so busy living their own selfish lives that they're probably not even going to notice what you're doing in the first place. And for the people who are noticing, they are probably your friends, and a true friend will support you no matter what you do. Sure, if you move away, they may be a little upset that you left them behind for something bigger and better. But in the grand scheme of things, if they're really meant to be in your life, they'll stay. So think about why you're feeling stuck, and if that reason is in fact related to other people's opinions of your decisions, you probably should just do what you want anyways. Let me give you one more scenario to put into perspective how important I think this is. Imagine you, at 85 years old, lying on your deathbed in the hospital. You lived a very mediocre life. You avoided doing a lot of things that you wanted to do because you were scared of what other people thought about you. You didn't want Joe to judge you for moving away. You didn't want that group to judge you for starting a YouTube channel that ultimately was kind of cringe. You didn't want this person to judge you because the girl you were dating maybe wasn't hot enough for their standards and you thought your friends were going to make fun of you. You didn't want to pursue your truest passions because you thought, people may make fun of you a little bit and it's not a good look to be an anime fan. So whatever those things are, that 85 deathbed version of you did not do. He skipped starting the channel, he skipped moving to a new city, he skipped dating the girl, he skipped embracing his passions, and he lived a life that other people wanted him to live. And while he's on his deathbed, all of those other people are dead, and he's the only one left, that version of you. Then, the 84-year-old version of you, who isn't yet on his deathbed, walks in and has a conversation with the version of you that didn't live your life to your fullest potential. This version did everything he ever wanted. He went for the girl, he started the YouTube channel, he embraced his truest self, and he lived the most satisfying life that he possibly could have lived. How do you think 85-year-old you would feel talking to the version of you that achieved your fullest potential? While that version is laying on your deathbed knowing that you didn't do anything that you truly wanted and you wasted your entire life. That's how you should think today. So why would you let other people who are gonna die control your life's decisions? I mean, we're all gonna die. I feel like that's obvious at this point, unless Elon Musk invents some crazy thing that keeps us alive. So why are you putting so much importance on other people who, in the grand scheme of things, don't even care? Like I said, if you're feeling stuck, it's important to break down why you're feeling like that, and a lot of the times it's probably stemming down to you not doing things that you truly want to do. So think about that and determine what those things are, and just go for them. You're probably wondering, who is this random guy on YouTube? He sounds so familiar. Well, that's exactly what I did. I've been feeling a little burnt out with gaming videos on my main channel that I've been doing for over 9 years, for about a year. I'm not particularly enjoying it. I'm not particularly enjoying the way that YouTube is going with all the loud, obnoxious stuff and cringe and trend chasing whatever, right? I kind of miss the old YouTube. And that's the point of this channel. So yes, I am Robocast, that is my main channel, and this is a new project of mine where I'm simply talking about things that I think about, and if you want to watch them, great, and if you don't want to watch them, I don't really care. I'm doing this for me, and I would love to share my thoughts with the world. So I encourage you to do the same. In my opinion, not living your life to the fullest potential is the biggest sin of them all. What's the point of any of it if you don't make it yours? So I recently learned that over 73% of our generation report feeling lonely on a regular basis, which is honestly pretty insane. But I've been there too. I mean, we live in a lonely world, in a culture that praises isolation, hard work, and avoiding other people to focus on yourself. And while there is value in this, long term, it causes an inevitable loneliness that we're all feeling today. There's no cure for loneliness. It's a hardwired human emotion. But there are ways that you can improve your situation to make it to where you aren't lonely as often, where you feel like you have a place in the world and aren't some random, silent outcast watching life go by. So if you're wondering why we feel so lonely all the time, let me paint a picture for you. Let's go back to the 1980s, the era that we always hear about how much better it was. Looking at a normal American or Brit or, resident of a developed country, what does a typical day look like? Well, you probably woke up and made breakfast, using ingredients that you bought from the grocery store the day before. Whether you're eating something simple like cereal or a more complex breakfast with eggs, bacon, and toast, you sat down to craft or curate the food that you're about to put into your body. Maybe you talked to your spouse, whom you met by approaching her at the grocery store a few years earlier. Maybe you read the newspaper or watched it on TV, hosted by a guy from your city, talking about issues in your city. Okay, now it's time for work. You're a bookkeeper for a local business, so you gotta drive to the office and crunch some numbers. On the way to work, you zone out, thinking about all the stuff you have to do today while listening to music on your local radio station, curated by the host of that radio station that you hear every single morning. You love this guy because he's hilarious. Pulling up to the office, you say hi to your coworkers, talking about what you saw on the local news, and after a few minutes, you sit down at your desk and begin writing in your paper general ledger to update all of the company's expenses that were planned over the weekend. And you do this for a bit, fully immersed into your work with no distractions. You don't have a phone going off, you don't have emails going off, it's you, your books, and your coworkers, and that's it. So that's your day, and on your way home, maybe you stop at the bar with your coworkers and chat about random stuff, pay using the cash that you just received from cashing your paycheck at the local bank, and then you head home to eat a home-cooked dinner with your family before maybe watching some TV and going to bed. It sounds like a pretty boring day, and honestly this guy does not have an exciting life by any means, but it's one rooted in reality. There's a physical interaction to the physical world, and people, even when bored, are still a member of their own reality. Okay, so let's compare that to the modern day bookkeeper, and you'll get an idea of why people are feeling so lonely and isolated. You wake up to the sound of your alarm on your phone, check your social media for a little bit, and get out of bed. Before you pop your Factor 75 meals that were shipped to your house into the microwave, eating it while watching YouTube videos by random YouTubers who give advice over Minecraft gameplay, and then you sit down at your desk in your room by yourself and load up your accounting software and begin working. You message your coworkers on Slack or Teams or Discord or whatever. You check your phone every 10 minutes to see what some random people you once knew are up to on Instagram. And after a long day of being distracted, checking email, jumping between 10 different things and not interacting with a single person in real life, you sit down on your couch and order food through Uber Eats using the money that you can't see that got direct deposited to your account automatically when you were done with work. You feel alone, so you go on Tinder or Hinge to try to superficially meet a girl whom you know nothing about, except for a 2-sentence bio and 5 pictures, and then you stream Game of Thrones and go to bed and repeat the process tomorrow. Maybe I am glamorizing the past and comparing it to the present in an unrealistic way, which is possible, but you have to see my point here. The reason you feel lonely is because you aren't taking the steps to improve your lifestyle to make you feel less lonely. We are so immersed into a fake artificial world with digital profiles and digital dating and digital food delivery, digital payments. Everything is in this world that doesn't actually exist. Our brains cannot comprehend the digital world. It's not a real thing, and our evolution is not hardwired to understand what exactly that means. In short, the digital world pulls you out of reality. So of course, you don't feel present and you feel lonely in your actual reality. Basically, we're becoming out of touch with the physical world, and that's a huge factor that's causing a lot of people's loneliness. Oh, but what about social media and all of the new tools that are relevant to network and meet new people? Like, it's easier now than ever before to meet people in real life because of social media. Yes, I see your point, but the thing is, you can't use social media as a substitute for real-life socialization. While you may think that messaging someone on Instagram or sending them a video on TikTok or Snapchat is going to constitute socializing, it's not the same thing. Our bodies and souls need to be around other humans. It's just in our DNA. We are a social species, and not socializing with real humans is making you feel more lonely. And these alternatives do not work. In fact, they're probably making you feel even more lonely. We're living our lives at a sprinter's pace, moving on from one thing to the next. One app to the next, one swipe to the next, one DoorDashed food order to the next because we don't feel like cooking. But while doing this, we sacrifice the ability to actually be present in the real physical world that we live in. What I'm saying is that by immersing yourself into your real world, you can decrease the amount of loneliness that you have. It sounds stupid, but to not be lonely, you just need to interact more with other humans. Instead of ordering food, go buy some food and learn to cook. Interact with the ingredients that come from the earth, see the shelves of the grocery store, and interact with the cashier. Even if it's just a novel hello, it's better than sitting at home and not talking to anyone. Instead of using your phone at every single red light in traffic, sit in silence and observe your environment. Maybe you'll notice something that you haven't seen before. Maybe there's a new game store down the road that you haven't ever noticed in 10 years because you always look at your phone. Maybe you'll see a sign for a local group that's looking for new members where you can go and meet new people. Even if not looking at your phone at a red light sounds petty and like it's not actually going to change anything, the point here is becoming more immersed in your own environment. Don't treat people as NPCs. Realize that each of them are human souls who are also looking for connection. Go to a local coffee shop and become a regular so you start seeing the same people and learning their names and becoming a part of your community. I'm telling you, even if you go to grab a to-go coffee because you don't have time to sit around and drink coffee like you're an Italian, that's still a start. You're still going to see the same baristas every day. Maybe you start talking to them. Maybe they think you're cool and they're waiting for you to talk to them. You're never going to know unless you actually get out in the real world. If you like board games or Dungeons and Dragons, go to a local board game store and play with the other people who are also going there to try to meet new people. Chat with your coworkers and try to actually learn more about them, who they are, and what they do for fun. Ask people their names and talk to them. You have to realize that if we all feel lonely, then we're all wanting new friends and acquaintances. You're not the only one who's lonely, so why don't you connect with some of these other lonely people, and remember that people aren't going to think you're weird just because you try to talk to them. Think about it. How often has someone approached you in public and you said, "Wow, why did this guy say, 'Hey, I like your shoes'? That is the weirdest thing I've ever heard." Chances are, you're not going to think that's weird. And in fact, you were probably honored that somebody told you that. So don't overthink it. All I'm saying is that when I cut down my social media time, stopped wearing earbuds in public places, avoided the lazy path and went out to buy the things that I need and cook the food that I need to nourish my body, and started treating my city that I lived in as a sandbox that I could explore, the loneliness went away. Did I meet more people? Not really. I still don't really know that many people in the city that I moved to, but I now feel like I'm becoming a part of my physical environment, and that loneliness has gone away. There's a world of people out there that are all looking for connection just like you, so notice them, and that's the first step towards increasing your chances of a new friendship forming. Until you've claimed that you've tried everything in your power to build new social connections, you can't say that it doesn't work. Just because one guy on Twitter says it's impossible doesn't mean it's true, and until you prove that hypothesis for yourself, you can't say, excuse me, I can't go in public, that doesn't work anymore, because that's just false. Having a pessimistic attitude isn't going to cure your loneliness, so you might as well try to enjoy the journey, look at it as a self-development exercise, and try to become a part of the real world in the process. Restoring your connection with the physical world is going to make you feel like you are now a part of the physical world. It just makes sense, so at the very least, give it a try, and if it doesn't work, come back and roast me in the comments, but it doesn't hurt to try. That's it for my talk today. I'll talk to you guys next time. Sometimes it could feel like modern dating is hopeless. I mean, you hear it constantly on social media, on podcasts, and from your friends. There's no hope for finding a partner in modern society, and we're all doomed to fail and die alone. Or at least that's what the common message is these days. It's hard to meet people, it's hard to connect with people, it's hard to approach people, it's hard to say the right things, it's hard to know what you're supposed to do, you don't want to get canceled for saying the wrong thing, you don't want to look stupid, you need more Instagram clout, and the list goes on and on and on. But I think many people are looking at this the wrong way, and your interpretation of the situation is what's causing dating to feel so futile. And I think there's a way to fix it. So let me explain what I mean by this. I'm actually no longer single for once, and have met what I can only describe as the girl of my dreams. And you know when I met her? When I stopped caring and stopped trying. That's the irony. I know, it sounds stupid, counterproductive, and stereotypical, but I promise that there will actually be some value here once we get into it. I spent years trying to find the girl for me. I did all of the things that I thought I should do. I was on dating apps. I bought Tinder Premium. I know, what a loser. I was looking presentable and dressing nice and smelling good and hitting the gym occasionally and asserting my dominance and all the stupid stuff that you hear people like Andrew Tate talking about online. And guess what? I was still alone. I rarely got matches on dating apps, and when I did, it was like talking to a wall. In fact, I think my dog could have better conversations than the stuff I experienced on Hinge, and she doesn't even speak human. It just felt so empty and meaningless, and I started to lose hope. And after years of trying, I gave up. Not saying I became all doomer and thought that all hope was lost. I just decided that it wasn't worth my time and started focusing on other things. I focused on my work and picked up some new hobbies like DJing, reading, and getting into coffee. I know, kind of pretentious, but I enjoyed it. I kind of thought that dating was a lost cause and just figured, you know what, I'm gonna do what I genuinely want to do and not live my life so that I could attract girls. Because that tends to happen when you're single. Instead of hitting the gym to look good for some random girl that I probably won't even meet, I went because it made me feel amazing. I started reading interesting books and listening to interesting podcasts, not so that I had fun facts to share with people that I may or may not go on a date with. I did it to expand my knowledge, learn new things, and entertain myself. I saved the money that I was spending on stupid nights, standing around at the bar and pretending like I was going to talk to girls even though I never did, and used it to go on a trip to Greece and Croatia, which, believe it or not, was not as expensive as you would think. I started living my life for me, immersed myself into the moment, hung out with friends without caring if women were there or not, and worked hard on what I was doing. I put my head down and just lived my life the way I normally should have been. And after a year of not caring about dating, I noticed something. I was becoming a more interesting person. I was becoming pretty passionate about my new hobbies. I was learning a ton of new information. I was in pretty decent shape. My Greece and Croatia trips gave me cool stories to tell, like how we hitchhiked in rural Greece at 3 a.m. and explored the town where King's Landing was filmed in Game of Thrones. And I was doing all of these things for me, and nobody else. And guess what? Now that I was becoming more interesting, I started to stand out. See, one of the problems with modern dating and its heavy emphasis on the internet is that it makes it kinda hard to stand out. Instead of learning about someone through mutual friends or seeing them in public, all you get is a 2-sentence bio and some still photos that were curated and photoshopped to look as good as possible. Photos that were staged to potentially attract someone. It's all signaling, and that's the irony of all of it. Nothing that you see on these apps or on social media is real life. It's girls curating their profile to try to seem as interesting as possible, and guys doing the exact same thing, but for girls. It's all this stupid, superficial game where nobody's actually learning about each other, nobody's actually connecting with each other, and it's all just signaling to try to attract someone. Everyone on dating apps seems so interesting, but in reality, it's all a facade, and it's full of lies to try to attract people of the opposite sex. So, these people all seem so interesting, but once the conversations begin, nobody's actually interesting. It's all fake. So, conversations on dating apps die out, people project their dating app failures onto real life, and then next thing you know, nobody's talking to each other and everyone has lost hope. But when you spend time becoming more interesting, building new hobbies, finding your passions, exploring the world, learning a new skill, you actually stand out among a sea of posers. And when you stand out, you're setting yourself up for success. See, this is what I'm saying. If you could build your foundation on authenticity, you're more likely to attract a girl. At least if you're looking for a girl. If you're looking for a guy, honestly, it's the same thing. Regardless, dating works out a lot better for you if you're authentic, and these dating apps basically encourage you to not be authentic. So instead of constantly chasing dating from a perspective of, oh, I have to do what I have to do and I really hope this works out, you should just be authentic with what you truly are, and it'll actually work out better for you in the long term. Sure, there's still the massive obstacle of finding the person that you want to actually connect with, but when you're on a path of your own and you're genuinely enjoying that path, things just seem to fall into place. It's kind of weird. Because you're living your authentic life, the people that you do randomly connect with are more likely to actually get along with you and see you for who you are, because you're not pretending to be someone else. But I will say, there's a paradox here. You can't try to become a more interesting person in order to become more successful in dating down the line. Doing that defeats the entire purpose and puts you back at square one. So you need to genuinely find things that make you happy and pursue them for your own selfish motives. You need to genuinely want to become a better version of yourself. Then, once you craft yourself into the person that you want to be, you'll find someone else who also wants that person. Do you really expect someone to want to date a person that isn't even happy with themselves? That isn't living an authentic life for themselves? I mean, when you really break it down, it makes sense. So stop focusing on doing things to make other people attracted to you. Find a way to channel your motivation in a way that helps you improve your outlook on your life, become a more interesting person, get in better shape, and treat the world as a sandbox that you can explore, learn, and interact with. From here, you'll find much more fulfillment, and that fulfillment will be contagious, which ironically, in the long run, will help you find the person that you've been chasing the entire time. There's no point in trying to find someone else when you haven't even established who you even are. And I'm not saying that this is a one-stop solution to fix all problems in dating. There's a whole variety of other things that are problematic. But if you live a life that's authentic towards yourself, you'll be a lot happier, which is a win, even if dating doesn't work out very well. If you want, I could share my thoughts on how you can actually meet people in dating, because that is a huge obstacle still. So let me know, and I'd love to share what I think and kind of what worked for me. If you do this, it's the first step of a journey that'll become the best journey of your life, and it's something that you won't regret doing. So I don't know about you, but I always feel like I'm not quite where I need to be. That I'm moving slow and that everyone is passing me, and that if I don't speed up, I'm gonna lose the race and be the guy who almost achieved his goals. I need to make more money, I need to make more friends, I need to be more social, I need to hit the gym more, I need to eat better, I need to take more risks, I need to get out of my comfort zone, and I need to push myself to reach my goals by tomorrow, or the world is gonna end and everyone's gonna think I'm a loser. Or at least that's the message that seems to be pushed by influencers who seem to be the definition of having it all together. Rich, famous, 7% body fat, digital nomad with a $1 million house, 2 cars, and celebrity connections. Look at this crazy lifestyle. If you want to achieve this, you just gotta follow my formula and you'll be there in no time. But this comparison is so unrealistic. For every Iman Godsdi and Logan Paul, there are millions of other people who don't have all of that stuff. And even for the ones that do have it, they aren't perfect. They're lacking somewhere else that you aren't. And sorry to break it to you, but nobody on this planet is ever going to have it all together. Let me explain. I was listening to a podcast and I heard this rhetorical question. Would you change places with Warren Buffett, the multi-billionaire who's one of the richest, most successful people in human history? And the person on the podcast, like most would, instantly said, yeah, I would love to change places with Warren Buffett. I mean, who wouldn't? Of course you would want to be a multi-billionaire. And it sounds like an easy choice. I mean, everyone wants to be rich. But I mean, really think about it. Do you actually want to trade places with Warren Buffett? I mean, 100% switch lives with no changes whatsoever. Do you want to be thrown into a decaying 93-year-old body that's unable to walk up the stairs or probably even use the toilet by yourself? Do you want a handful of years left on this earth living with your second wife who you married 2 years after your first wife died, knowing that your kids are probably going to fight over your immense wealth the second that you kick the bucket? Probably not. And that's the thing you gotta think about. Everything has trade-offs. So Logan Paul and Iman Godsdi are idols of the YouTube space, the guys that everyone wants to be like. But do you really want to be them? I'm sure you'd love the money and the fame that comes with being Logan Paul, but would you want half the world to hate you because you're an absolute scumbag and every moment of your life be documented by random people pushing cell phones into your face? Doesn't really sound that appealing when you put it that way. So longing to be someone else that you don't even know is pointless. All you see with these people are the positive, socially acceptable aspects of their existence. But you don't see the pain, the emptiness, and all of the other negative traits that come along with things like fame and fortune. So on the surface, everyone looks like they're doing better than you, that they've figured everything out, and that they're sailing past you at light speed, achieving the goals that you aren't. But that's just false. Jeff Bezos is living the dream, but he's working 1 billion hours a week, has shareholders breathing down his neck, has to deal with the government on a regular basis, and got divorced from his wife, which cost him $38 billion. Maybe Zuckerberg's living the dream, but he's probably one of the most hated people on the planet and is an empty shell of a human who experiences no joy in life except increasing shareholder value. You see my point. Comparing yourself to others is futile. It does nothing but makes you feel inadequate and distracts you from what really matters. When compared to these guys, you're never going to have it together because they aren't real, and even the ones who are real are still lacking things that probably make them feel like they also don't have it all together. So what should you do? Just stop? Well, no. I think the best way to enjoy life is by challenging yourself and constantly growing, which means that the only person you should compare yourself to is yourself. Are you doing slightly better than you were last year? Are you making more money than you did last month? Did you eat healthy more days this week than you did last week? That is called progress, my friend, and you should be proud of yourself. If you set lofty goals and fail at all of them, but get closer every single time that you try, is it really a failure? So yes, of course, you don't have it all together, because your idea of having it all together is based on a false reality. But can you ever have it together? Probably not. Regardless of if you're 18, 24, or 36, the story is the same. There are things you want to achieve that you haven't. At 18, you may want to get into college. At 24, you may want to find a girlfriend, and at 36, you may want to save enough money to buy a house. Even though each of these are entirely different, the feeling of not quite being there is the same. You're so close to getting into college, so close to finding that girl, and you almost have enough money to get the house. But you still feel like a failure because you aren't quite there. See, this is where I go back to my idea of extending the time frame. Who says you need to be a multimillionaire by 25? Who says you need to be married by 35? There are no rules to how you live your life, and trying to abide by rules that don't have any reasoning behind them is a waste of time because it just leaves you feeling like you suck at everything. But again, if you take constant steps to improve and get closer and closer to that goal, you are winning, even if you lose. I watched a video by our Lord and Savior Casey Neistat the other day called The Impossible Dream, and it documented his journey of trying to run a sub-3-hour marathon. This is a hard goal for anyone, and Casey tried multiple times and failed to reach that number. But he didn't give up and spent the next 17 years of his life trying to accomplish it. And guess what? At 41 years old, he finally did it, and the feeling of accomplishment must have been overwhelming. For some of you, he was trying to run a sub-3-hour marathon for more years than you've been alive. And you want to give up after a few months of working on something? Imagine if he said he needed to run that marathon by the time he was 30. Well, when he inevitably failed due to the lack of experience, he would have given up the second he turned 31 and would have never actually done it. But I'm sure he realized that 30 is a pointless goal that holds no weight, and just saying that he's going to do it was enough to keep him coming back for more. Successful people often don't reach their goals in the timeline that they set for themselves, so don't think you're a failure because you also aren't hitting those timeline targets. The difference is that the people who are successful are the ones who kept going, regardless of how late they were to the party. Steve Carell acted for over 15 years before his role of Michael Scott in The Office. Tom Brady was the 199th draft pick overall and went on to become the best quarterback in NFL history. If you continuously work on something for long enough, you will get there. How fast you get there is determined by how focused you can be. So instead of comparing yourself to fake, arbitrary goals and being upset that you don't have it all together, realize that you will never have it together and work on accomplishing your goals. So, you know the saying, you can't have it all? Yeah, well, I disagree with it. And I admit it may be a hot take, but I do genuinely think it's possible to have everything you've ever wanted. Is it delusion? Maybe, but I stand firm on my claim, and by the end of this talk, I think you'll understand why and how you can do this yourself. Last summer, I went through a big self-improvement era. I had a bunch of lofty goals that popped up on my mid-year resolution, and I thought of some awesome things that I wanted to improve on to become the best version of myself. I wanted to learn Spanish because being fluent in another language is one of the coolest things that anyone can accomplish, especially in the US where hardly anyone does. I wanted to start working out regularly and gain some weight. I've always struggled to gain weight and have been skinny for most of my life, so I figured it was time to change that. I wanted to upload consistently on my main YouTube channel because I was honestly kinda slacking and felt like I was missing out on a lot of potential and throwing my 9-year YouTube career away. I wanted to start a second channel talking about business and set it up where it runs itself with a team of editors and writers. I wanted to build a personal brand on Instagram. I wanted to perform better in my job. I wanted to have a more vibrant social life, and the list goes on. I had a massive wave of motivation and was determined to check off all of these awesome things and be jacked, rich, famous, and the most interesting man on the planet in 6 months. Honestly, I felt amazing. And guess what? It's now a new year. I still don't know Spanish. I'm still not jacked, I barely got more consistent on YouTube, and most of the other things that I set as lofty goals also fell short. I'm sure that's never happened to you, right? I'm sure you've never sat down on January 1st to write your ambitious 30-goal list for the new year, just to never accomplish any of them and repeat the same process every following year until present day. Yeah, that's never happened, right? See my point? We all do this, and honestly, it's pretty funny how one day we struggle to do the things that we already plan on doing, and the following day we somehow think we can add 30 more things, improve the original ones, and do all of it in 3 months. It makes no sense. So of course, when we fail at these goals, it feels like we can never accomplish what we're aiming to do, and the evidence of my failed goals should reaffirm this belief for me. I'm doomed. Or at least that's how I did think until one of my friends gave me some valuable insight. I have a friend that's my age, 23 and already a millionaire. He drives a Porsche and owns a software company and all sorts of other impressive financial goals that honestly, I've been a bit jealous of. He seems to have it all together and is on a path to an insane level of success. But after spending a month straight with him last summer, I realized something. While he may be rich and already have a successful company at an insanely young age, he openly admits that he lacks the social experience that I have. I'm honestly pretty good at talking to people, and I feel good with my dating life, but he feels completely lost at both of those things. So why is that? Well, we should look at life as a giant bucket with 24 marbles in it. Those marbles represent the number of hours that you have every day. With sleep and basic human needs, let's just say you have like 14 remaining. Then you work for another 8 hours a day, which leaves you with 6. You now have 6 hours per day of unused time. What are you going to spend it on? Maybe you're going on Instagram? Maybe you're like me and playing video games? Doesn't matter, but those hours are yours to spend. You can put each of them into a separate bucket, maybe an hour into time with family, an hour into watching your favorite TV show, an hour into your health, and a few others into various other things here and there. But it's going to take you a while to stockpile a bunch of marbles in each of those buckets because you're only adding 1 or 2 at a time. My friend put nearly every single one of his leftover marbles into learning how to code and building a software product. He put 0 into his social life, 0 into dating, 0 into video games, leisure, fitness. It was all for business. And guess what? Now he owns a very successful business. because he focused so much on one important goal. He channeled nearly all of his energy into that one goal for multiple years, and now he has the results to show for it. And we may be jealous of his success, but do we even have the right to be? How many marbles did we put into our business bucket? Did we contribute our maximum energy into accomplishing the same goal that he did? Did we neglect those video games, or that night out at the bar, or that time we spent on dating apps? No, we still did those things, so of course our business bucket isn't going to have a lot of marbles in it, and my friend's business bucket definitely will, because that's all he did. The point is, it usually works better to channel a massive amount of energy into one ambition or goal than to split it up into a bunch of little ones. What's the point of adding a handful of marbles into the fitness bucket by hitting the gym twice a week and making no progress? Was that even worth the contribution, or did you basically just waste those 2 hours? You might as well have just thrown them into the sitting on the couch staring at the ceiling bucket because they did absolutely nothing. My friend neglected a bunch of aspects of his life to build that business, and now he has the results to make the sacrifice worth it. And guess what? The effort is paying dividends. He's now grown his business to a level where he hired a team to do most of his work for him, which now gives him more free time to get into shape, socialize, and have more experience with dating. He sacrificed those things early on so that he could have a higher likelihood of accomplishing them later. If you want to make new friends, you need to invest time into making new friends, and a lot of it. Sure, it may seem like a waste, but once you have those friends, you now have a bunch of free marbles to throw into other things. If you want to get into shape, throw as many as you can into the fitness bucket and do it right, and once you're in shape, it'll take much less of your time to maintain your physique. And if you want to build a business and become financially independent, put as much time and energy as possible into doing exactly that. You can look at the unbalanced approach of investing all of your time into one skill as putting money into a bank. The more money you put in, the more the bank account balance is going to increase. The more hours I put into working out, the more the account balance goes up. And as the balance increases, I feel better about myself and I feel confident in the amount that I have in that account. And guess what? Once I hit a certain amount, once I get the physique I want, the account starts paying interest. I can use that interest, aka the free time that came from me front-loading all of my energy into one goal, and put it into a new account. Now that my workouts are 30 minutes instead of 2 hours, I can use the remaining time on building a business. I can deposit all of my money into my business account, like my friend did, and then when the business becomes self-sufficient, I can take the interest that I got from my time freeing up and invest it into a social life like he did. You see my point? You can, in fact, have everything you want, but you just can't have it all at once. And this doesn't mean that you have to burn yourself out to achieve your goals. If you still want to put an hour or two into reading or playing video games or whatever you want every day, do it. But continue focusing the rest of your energy into your long-term goals, and as those buckets fill up and start overflowing, you can use the excess marbles to work on the next one, whether that, again, is building your social circle or traveling the world. My friend, the one with a successful business, has a rule that I really like. He says that you shouldn't be working on more than 3 things at any given time, because splitting it up into more than 3 will result in the quality of each of those things decreasing exponentially. So if you have more than 3 ambitious goals on your plate, focus on a few of them instead of all of them at the same time, and you'll make a lot more progress. Then, once you check the first one off, move down the list until you've built your dream life. So, stop thinking that you need it all now, because you don't. As I've said before, life's a journey, and the journey is the destination. So enjoy it, and put consistent effort into your passions and goals every single day, and you'll be where you want to be in no time. So you want to have better luck with dating? Well, to do that, you need to delete dating apps. Yeah, I know, it sounds counterproductive. Why would you want to delete the only outlet that people use to meet new romantic partners? It's like deleting your YouTube channel so that you could post more YouTube videos. Or at least that's how I thought before I realized that dating apps are detrimental to your dating life. In fact, I'd say that they hurt more than they help, and by deleting them, you'll actually be more successful in the dating market. Let me tell you a story to explain how this works. Throughout most of college, I was big on dating apps. They were a blessing from the gods. So many options, so many opportunities, so much dopamine, so many attractive girls. Wow, my dating life is going to be amazing. So, like 99% of dudes that I know, I spent a considerable amount of time on Hinge and Tinder. I swiped, took good photos, thought of cheesy pickup lines and nice things to say, and did all of the things that everyone online tells you is the way to get matches and meet more people. And for a while, it kind of worked. I got a decent number of likes and talked to more people than I expected to. What a great introduction to college. I'm sure I'm gonna find the one in no time, I said to myself. And based on the evidence that I had, my dating life was pretty good. My friends seemed to be doing just as well. The more attractive ones would get dozens of matches, and the more average-looking guys like myself would get even a few matches here and there. It was pretty easy, and it seemed like our dating lives would be awesome in no time. We would meet new people, do fun things as a group, go on dates, and maybe even find girlfriends. Or at least, that's what we thought would happen. While I was getting matches, nothing was really happening with them. Sometimes they wouldn't respond, sometimes the conversations would die out after a few exchanges, sometimes we'd get each other's Snapchats or Instagrams, but that was pretty much the full extent of what was happening. It seemed like there was some sort of invisible barrier that was preventing me from truly connecting with these people, and it sucked. So, you won't guess what I did. I doubled down. I spent more time on the apps. I bought Tinder Premium. I started using super likes to stand out, and I was more creative with my messages to stand out among the crowd. And, well, nothing changed. In fact, in 3 to 4 years of using dating apps off and on in college, want to know how many dates I went on? 4. That's 1 date per year. And want to know how many second dates I went on with those girls? 1. And the girl I went on a second date with ended up being absolutely insane, and I had to block her on everything because I thought she was going to kill me. And no, I'm not exaggerating. Welcome to modern dating, my friends. See, I undoubtedly swiped through hundreds or maybe even thousands of people over that 4-year period of time, and I had nothing to show for it. And it wasn't just me. My friends were even more active on the apps than I was, and some of them would get 10 plus matches per week. And even with that in mind, none of them were really going on dates either, and by the end of college, we were all basically still single. And I started to realize something. Dating apps hurt more than they help. See, the human brain doesn't fully understand the virtual world. It's not a real thing, and we don't really know the difference between it and reality. That's why video games feel so immersive sometimes, because our brain is interpreting it as overcoming real challenges and completing real tasks. And this weird misinterpretation of reality carries over into dating apps as well. If we go on Tinder and swipe through 1,000 semi-attractive girls, our brain doesn't know the difference and thinks, wow, look at all these options I have, my dating life sure is going well. That dopamine hit from getting a new match or a new message feels the same way as getting eye contact and a smile from a girl at a coffee shop. That initial message feels like the approach in public, minus the nervousness. We're under the illusion that we're doing so well in dating, but it's all a facade. And even if you aren't doing well, you still have the illusion that you have infinite options, and that's just not reality. Since we have thousands of options at our fingertips with no risk of rejection, we stop even thinking about approaching girls in public. We subconsciously think that there's no reason to approach the pretty girl at the bar or in class because our dating lives are going so well that we don't even need to do it. In fact, as soon as we get home, we're going to go on Tinder or Hinge and swipe our way through 100 potential options. How amazing. In fact, when I was big on dating apps, I even got to a point where the idea of approaching a girl in public wasn't even on the radar anymore. It went from the feeling of, wow, I really like that girl, I should go up to her and introduce myself, to just nothing. It's like real-life approaches weren't even in the realm of possibilities anymore. Instead of strategizing how I was gonna get that girl's number, the idea of doing that didn't even exist. And I don't know if this is random or if this is just a me thing, but it was weird. But I think I'm not alone on this. I have friends who had really good Hinge accounts with matches rolling in every single day that wouldn't even say a single word to a girl in person. And this is something that I have seen across the board while I was in college. People didn't even talk to each other at bars anymore. They just sat around on their phones, went on social media and dating apps, and then longed for a relationship when they were once again sober. And if they deleted dating apps, maybe they wouldn't feel so lonely. See, throughout history, men were lucky to get 1 or 2 beautiful women crossing their paths every single year. Without social media and dating apps, the only time that you would run into an attractive girl was occasionally at the grocery store or a park or something. So when you saw her, you had to approach, or it would be another 6 months until you see another girl like her. There was more of an opportunity cost attached to not approaching her, because if you don't, You had no other options until fate put another one in your path. But now with the internet, the one that our brains doesn't understand, it seems like there are more and more beautiful people appearing on our radar every single day. If you like tall brunette girls, you can see 500 of them on your Instagram page in 5 minutes. And if you like blondes, just swipe on Hinge and you'll see 50 of them. So when you see that girl in public, you don't think anything of it, and all of your opportunities slip through the cracks every single time. So you return to Tinder and the cycle continues. I'd even say that these apps are hurting society as a whole. Everyone is doing this, which is making dating harder for everyone, which is making everyone so much lonelier. And it sucks. And this is just the start of the countless problems that these apps present. Let's talk about another one, profiles. If you see a girl in public, you can get a vibe for what she's actually like. You can see her mannerisms, hear her voice, see how she walks, see the friends that she associates with, take a look at the book she's reading or the brand of clothes that she wears and the coffee that she orders. When you run into her in public, you can paint a projection of what this girl's like and strike up a conversation, connect on shared topics and experiences, and have that physical connection that isn't available in the virtual world. And the thing is, you'll know if she's interested or not based on how she responds to your actions, and you can decide if it's worth asking her out or not. You approach her and you say, "Hey, what is that you're drinking?" And she responds, a venti Trenta vanilla ice mocha grande latte, and looks away. You're probably going to get the vibe that she doesn't want to talk to you. But if she turns around and smiles at you and says, "Oh, it's my blah 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 drink from Starbucks, it's really good, you should try it," and smiles, well, there's more of a chance that you should continue the conversation. But profiles on dating apps completely ignore this crucial part of the experience. Instead of seeing her, you see her curated image of what she wants other people to see her as. You see the topics that she thinks guys are interested in, the song that she thinks will add a quirky and creative aspect to her profile, photos that took 10 tries to take, and the other aspects of her personality that the world finds appealing. You message her because you find her attractive. She responds because maybe something on your profile interests her. You don't know if either of you actually like each other or not. You don't know how the conversation's going because it's all over text. So maybe you try to plan a date to meet up awkwardly when you don't even know what she actually looks like. So no wonder the dates never happen. It's uncomfortable for everyone. But approaching in person adds an easy filter that instantly lets you know if she's interested or not. And dating apps remove that and make it a lot more complicated to actually know how she feels, which is a recipe for disaster when she later finds out that she doesn't like you. If you approach in person, you can find that out right away and save a lot of time and energy. And not to mention, the ratio of guys to girls on Tinder is 3-to-1. So for every one girl you're interested in, there are 3 other guys competing, which means she gets overwhelmed and doesn't respond to any of them because she's also under the impression that she has unlimited options, and everyone is lonely and single. So, you want to break out of this cycle? What can you do? Well, delete dating apps and approach in person. Yes, I know that shit is way easier said than done, and approaching girls in public is hard and kind of scary. Yes, I know there's a risk of rejection, and yes, I know that you may not know what to say and how to act and all of those things. I've been there. But if you stick around in this video, I'll address those things as well. But let's start with the simplest one. Girls aren't being approached in public anymore. Because everyone in our generation is only participating on dating apps and not in the real world, these girls aren't being spoken to by guys in public. At least not guys our age. They may get hit on by creepy 45-year-olds, but that's not you. We could probably ignore the bars or nightclubs because everyone gets drunk and then magically has the courage to finally approach a girl. But on a typical day in public, nobody's asking for their numbers and nobody's asking them out. Trust me, I've asked around and I know so many girls that have literally not had a single guy ask for their number sober in person in months. And I promise you, this is very common across the board. So, with that in mind, your chances are instantly higher in person than they are online. If there are 3 guys also saying the same stuff to every girl you match with on Tinder, there are probably 0 that you would be competing with in public. Maybe 1 on a good week, but most likely 0. And again, there are 1 billion options on Tinder. So, with that in mind, your chances are instantly higher in person than they are online. Which means, when you approach her, you are by definition having a better chance than doing it on Tinder. And you may think, oh, well, what if she doesn't like me? What if she finds me ugly? This is gonna sound kind of harsh, but if she finds you ugly in real life, and you may connect on a dating app, whenever you meet up in real life, eventually she's still gonna find you ugly. So you might as well just go for it to begin with. And let me clarify something. Remember when we talked about the filtering process that happens in person? Yeah, that's just human nature. If she doesn't find you attractive or doesn't like you, that's nothing bad on you. If anything, you're saving the time that would be wasted on talking to her, flirting with her, and texting her just for her to inevitably think the same thing if she pulls up on a date with you through dating apps. If a girl isn't attracted to you, that means nothing about you. It means that there isn't chemistry between the two of you. For every girl that you see in public that you're not attracted to, do you instantly see her as a bad person? No, it's just called dating preferences. That's how the world has always worked. It's just an unfortunate reality that her taste doesn't align with yours. And that's bound to happen because there are billions of us on this planet, and not everybody likes the same type of person. Sure, you may get rejected, but with enough trial and error, you will find the person who appreciates you for who you are, not for the curated fake profile that you're trying to use to replicate Andrew Tate, because that's not how it works. And again, approaching in public does have a risk of rejection associated with it, but so does dating apps. The only difference is that the rejection is in person instead of behind a screen. It's either risk rejection or remain single forever, and the feeling of being single forever is definitely much worse in a subtle curve by a random girl whose name you don't even know. But here's another thing, and I touched on this in another video. You can't make finding a girlfriend the main focus of your life. Sure, if you really don't want to be single anymore, you should put somewhat of an emphasis on this to try to get out there and meet people. But don't sacrifice your main goals and objectives just to try to appeal to a romantic partner. So be on the lookout and be immersed in your physical environment so that when a pretty girl is around, you see her and think of approaching her. But don't tailor your life to increasing your chances to meet this girl. Keep working on your goals, and if she comes into your life by coincidence, act on it, but focus on yourself first, and I promise you'll be a lot happier. Girls can tell when guys aren't living up to their fullest potential and are sacrificing their vision, and you'll actually have a much better chance at attracting a long-term partner if you work on what really matters to you and explore your passions than you will by chasing women. Now, there are a lot of ways to meet girls in person, and maybe I could talk about that some other time, but the first step is deleting dating apps and immersing yourself back into the physical world of dating that people have been participating in for years. Trying to get a quick fix solution by paying money to a large corporation that controls an algorithm that recommends romantic partners to you is not natural. And if you delete these apps to rewire your brain and focus on improving your social skills to talk to girls in public, I promise you, you will be so much happier and it'll work out so much better for you. Sure, it will probably take a while and it will be hard and you will get rejected, but when are any of the good things in life easy? If something's easy, that means everyone can do it, and if everyone can do it, then there's no value in accomplishing it. Everyone can tie their shoes, so do you feel proud of yourself when you do it? No. The things that make you feel good are the things that are a challenge, and going through the exercise of immersing yourself back into the dating world will feel so much more rewarding when it does finally work out. If you extend your time frame and enjoy this process, then you're setting yourself up for success, and when you do see that girl that you want to approach, whether tomorrow, next week, or a year from now, you'll be in the right mindset and will finally be able to find the one. I feel like there's a common misconception that as humans, we need to be well-rounded, that we need to develop a diverse skill set that applies to different aspects of life, we need to be well-read and educated, know everything about finance, politics, and sports, have multiple hobbies, have a complex social life, and so many other things that we constantly feel like we're being pulled in 1,000 directions. But being well-rounded isn't for everyone. Let's talk about Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is probably the least well-rounded person on the internet. From the outside, it may seem like he has it all. Money, fame, multiple businesses, and the ability to single-handedly redevelop the entire African continent. Wow, what a well-rounded guy. But I have a secret for you. Mr. Beast isn't well-rounded at all. In fact, he's the complete opposite. He's a specialist. See, there are two approaches to how you learn and build things in the modern era: the generalist and the specialist. The generalist is someone who seems to have it all, the jack of all trades, if you will. These people have a wide range of skills and understanding about a bunch of different topics, and most of the time, those topics are completely random. This is the guy who owns 2 businesses, one that sells sardines and one that builds gyms. The guy who could connect the dots between finance and politics and do the yard work, the housework, and fix the car while painting a beautiful painting and going wakeboarding on the weekend. This archetype is what most people these days strive to be. Everyone wants to be interesting and well-rounded with a diverse set of hobbies, a crazy mix of friends, eclectic music taste, and multiple passions. It seems like the more exciting way to do things, but, well, it has some severe flaws. But to tell you about the downsides of being a generalist, I need to tell you about the other path, the specialist. This is Mr. Beast. You want to know what Mr. Beast's hobbies are? YouTube. Do you want to know what his passions are? YouTube. What does his week consist of? YouTube. What does he learn about in his free time and talk about in his free time? You guessed it, YouTube. And because of this, he is by far the biggest and most well-known YouTuber on the planet. And he is probably the least well-rounded person on the entire platform. See, this approach is interesting because it isn't the one that people usually talk about. It's not as glamorous as being a jack of all trades. Mr. Beast found the one thing that he was good at and doubled down on it. Quadrupled down on it, really. He put every waking hour into absorbing as much knowledge as possible about YouTube and excelled miles past all of his competition. And to me, this proves that you don't need to be well-rounded. Because while being well-rounded is the ultimate goal for most people, it comes with some major downsides. First of all, people who try to put their hands into everything usually end up being mediocre at all of those things. You can't go out and party every weekend and stay healthy. It's just impossible. When I was in college, I was trying to be the president of a club, trying to get straight A's in school, run a successful YouTube channel, live a vibrant and interesting social life, spend time with family, and be consistent in the gym. And it kind of seemed like I was doing that. People seemed to think I was an interesting person and was very well-rounded, and the look on people's faces when they realized everything I was doing seemed to show that the well-rounded person was the one that people desired. But I have a confession. I absolutely sucked at being the president of my organization. I was making average grades in college, uploading once per month on YouTube, struggling to keep up with all of my social obligations, being frustrated when I was with family because I wasn't working, and slacking severely in the gym. In fact, my channel completely stagnated around my senior year. I got fired from the president position and lost pretty much all of my gym progress that I'd been trying so hard to achieve. I became mediocre at everything because I was trying too hard to be well-rounded. I had so much progress to make in every single direction that I was just lacking in every regard. And I was ignoring what I was naturally good at, YouTube, for the things that I wanted to be. And, well, it wasted a lot of time. The specialists, on the other hand, would have focused almost entirely on the one thing that they wanted to accomplish. Maybe that version of me would have spent 2 hours a day in the gym and would be in insanely good shape by now, or maybe I would have graduated with honors. Who knows? Well, not me, because I was spread so thin that I accomplished none of the things that I tried at and was mediocre with pretty much all of them. Again, that's why Mr. Beast has managed to become the most successful YouTuber on the planet in a crazy short amount of time. He focused nearly all of his energy into one goal, and the man ate, slept, and breathed YouTube. And now he's reaping the rewards. Let me give you an analogy to make this more interesting. A well-rounded person would be like a smooth river stone. You know, one of those pretty rocks that you find in the river and maybe you take home because of how cool it looks. This person has rounded edges because of their varied knowledge and skills, which makes them super adaptable and easy to get along with. And this stone has a ton of different uses. It could be used to skip across water, or build a rock path in a garden, or countless other things. Nobody's ever going to clash with the smooth rock. The specialist, however, would be a jagged, spiky rock that may not be as easy to get along with, but has a ton of practical value. This rock has a specific purpose, whether it's used to break through a tough barrier or to make some sort of crazy tool like an arrowhead or a spear. The rock's value is put heavily in one direction, making it point at the end and giving it very specific use cases. You wouldn't want to use the smooth stone for the spear because it just wouldn't work very well. That spiky rock isn't as well-rounded, but it's the most effective thing to use for the one job it's needed for. Not everyone's gonna like the spiky rock, sure, but the ones who do are gonna absolutely love it for how useful and efficient it is. It's exactly what they need. So, to tie this full circle, because of my slacking in college, I've come to the conclusion that the spiky route is a lot easier than the smooth one. And, well, sharing this knowledge can be extremely useful if you feel like you aren't really making progress in any direction. Instead of trying to be well-rounded, become a specialist. Find the thing that you're passionate about, the thing that you're good at, and focus a ton of energy into becoming the best that you can in that regard. My friend Chase isn't the most well-rounded guy I've ever met, but when it comes to playing the guitar, he is one of the best guitar players I've ever met. and he wouldn't have gotten so good at the guitar if he was also trying to become a master of other hobbies. Which brings me to the other downside of being well-rounded. It makes it hard to stand out. Sure, there's a sort of novelty to being well-rounded and cool, and it's great to talk about all your different hobbies and interests, but none of those things really stick. If someone's looking for the best software engineer they can find, and you're telling them about how you used to code right before you became an accountant and eventually opened your craft coffee bar, you probably aren't going to get the position. Sure, you may know a lot about coding, but you're going to be forgotten about the second that the guy with 30 years of coding experience walks in the door. That guy stands out among the crowd because he was so hyper-focused and consistent on one thing that he became a standout developer and got the job. People may come to him at any time when they have a software engineering problem, and he's 100% going to be able to fix it every single time without fail. Elon Musk stands out for his insane level of business expertise and innovation, but do people look at him as the ultimate role model for people looking to improve their social skills? Absolutely not. In fact, his social skills are terrible. And the reason why is because he became the sharpest rock that he could in the field of business and science and ignored the social aspect. That's the beauty of being a specialist, and that's why I think you don't need to be a well-rounded person. Focusing on what you enjoy and are good at is a great way to live a fulfilling life and to be proud of your work. And if you can find that thing, you should give the specialist route a try and see how quickly you can improve and reach your goals. So you make eye contact with the girl at the store and she smiles at you. Your heart stops for a second and you think she may be interested. You consider approaching, but you get scared and continue shopping. It weighs on your mind, but you move on with your life. And then, the next time you're in the store, the same thing happens, and the time after that, and now you're actually starting to think about this girl that you keep seeing at the store. After a few more visits, you finally think about it and realize that it's time to walk up to her and say hi. Maybe ask for her number or get her Instagram. So you swallow your fear, approach her, mumbling out the "Hey, I see you in here all the time and I wanted to get your number" line that you've been thinking about for days. And you say it, but before you finish, she interrupts you with "No thanks, I'm not interested," and walks away. And you feel devastated and embarrassed. This is the worst moment of your life. You vow to never risk that terrible feeling ever again. You have lost. But what if I told you that there's a way to consider this a win? To walk away feeling proud of the rejection and to never lose in a scenario like this, or with anything, ever again. In fact, losing won't even be in your vocabulary anymore. So, to hammer in this point, let me tell you a story. When I was in college, I went through a phase of extreme focus on my fitness goals. I was trying to be extremely active in the gym and work consistently every day on putting on muscle. And after a few months of work, I was finally starting to see progress. I mean, it wasn't crazy progress. I've mentioned in the past how I never really put full energy into it, but it was enough progress to encourage me to continue what I was doing. I felt great. And then, disaster struck when I absolutely destroyed my leg in a skiing accident. I broke my leg so badly that I had to get a metal plate and a bunch of screws put into it, which, by the way, are still there today. My months of gym progress went to waste, and now I was unable to walk for almost 4 months. I couldn't drive, I couldn't lift weights, and my leg was stuck extended, which, by the way, is really inconvenient, for a long time. Once I was finally able to move, I had to go through a few months of physical therapy. I went from making progress on my fitness goals to not even being able to support my body weight on one of my legs. In fact, I couldn't even bend my knee. It was brutal, and I hated every second of it. I spent months annoyed, questioning why this happened to me, and wondering how long it would take me to get back to normal, to be able to socialize, see my college friends again, and get back into the gym. It was a loss on nearly every single level. So after half of a year of sulking, I got back into the gym slowly and went through the tedious process of rebalancing my muscles, only being able to leg press 60 pounds. I could barely bend my knee, and I wasn't even able to do anything remotely athletic for the rest of that entire year. And as I was going through this, I began to realize something. See, I always thought I was invincible. Doing stupid stuff, attempting sports that I really didn't have the capability to do, neglecting my body with alcohol, eating junk, missing out on sleep, and so many other things that just really aren't good for you. But seeing how easily I completely destroyed my leg and how long it took me to recover, It got me thinking about how quickly life can change. And as weird as this sounds, I was kind of glad that it happened. While it felt like a loss for a long time, and I was pouting and whining about the whole experience, it eventually turned into a win. An injury that reduced my leg's mobility for the rest of my life, put me in debt because US medical bills are stupid, and caused me to be bedridden for months was one of the best perspective shifts I've ever had, and honestly, I don't regret any of it. See, this is exactly the mindset that you need to never lose again. Every single negative effect or circumstance is a win when framed the correct way. If you look at these losses as stepping stones in the non-stop learning experience that is life, you see how everything connects and how it ends up bettering you and leading to things that happen down the line. Sure, getting rejected or curved by the girl in the grocery store is a terrible experience, but if that happens to you multiple times, you're going to gain the tolerance to not even care about approaching people anymore. You are numb to the rejection, so you can walk up to anyone and, well, if they reject you, who cares, it already happened before. So walking away from that initial rejection is going to hurt, but if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's actually doing you a service. My parents have had disastrous marriages. They got divorced when I was 3, my mom's been married quite a few times since then, and my dad got married and re-divorced from his second wife, and my whole childhood was a weird web of relationships. I saw abusive ones, great ones, temporary ones, and toxic ones, and for years I looked at it as a generational curse that I was bound to follow. I mean, I wouldn't wish that type of chaos on anyone, and if you've been through it, you know what it's like. But at 23 years old, my perspective has changed, and I'm glad I got to witness all of it. I've become the person that I am today because of these chaotic losses, and now they've become wins. Because I was raised partially by a single mom, I learned to understand women and be in tune with my emotions. Because I've seen so many toxic relationships, I know how to create a good one. Because I didn't have my dad around as much as I should have, I learned how to be self-sufficient and make my own path in the world. Sure, all of these things are definitely negative, but I don't consider them as losses. And while they all feel absolutely terrible at the time, they've laid the groundwork for the person I've become today. So this is my point. Once you realize the potential for a positive outlook on losses, you will never lose again. I've talked about how you should slow down and enjoy the journey, and well, that's what life is. Look at every single day on an individual level and make it your goal to improve a tiny bit each time the sun sets. Observe your past negative experiences and try to learn from them and realize every single thing you've ever done in life has all led you directly to this point where you're watching this video, hearing these words, and being prepared to make changes. Maybe you had a terrible breakup. Well, guess what? It taught you what to look out for in future relationships. It taught you how to be a better boyfriend or girlfriend. It taught you how to open up to someone. It taught you something. You just have to find what it is, and once you do, it'll feel like a win. If you one day get married and have a beautiful family, your breakup led you there. If you open a business and become a multimillionaire in 5 years, your breakup led you there. Once you extend your time frame long enough, each of these losses will be transformed into a win in one way or another, even if you don't initially see how they connect. If my parents didn't get divorced when I was young, and my mom didn't get remarried multiple times, and people didn't come and go in my life as I was developing, I wouldn't have learned how to be independent. I wouldn't have gotten out of my comfort zone in college. I wouldn't have moved to the city that I'm in now. I wouldn't have met the girl that I've fallen in love with. I wouldn't have decided to start this YouTube channel, and I wouldn't be able to change other people's perspectives by sharing my thoughts with them in this video. It's all connected. And see, my friends, that's how you never lose again. Try to piece it all together, and I promise you'll see a light at the end of the tunnel, and with easy adjustments like this, you can literally change your life. As we get older, it seems like it becomes harder to make friends. I mean, even online, people seem to be getting more and more isolated. When I was younger, I could hop into a Call of Duty lobby on my Xbox 360, and within 1 or 2 matches, I could queue up with someone in a lobby and have a new friend by the end of the night. Even today, I still talk to some of my friends that I met through online games over 10 years ago. It's wild, but that seemed to have changed within the last 4 to 5 years. It seems like it's becoming harder to make new friends, both online and in the real world. And while we could blame this or blame that, it's just the way the world is going, and being upset about it isn't going to change the reality that making friends is hard these days. But I think I found the secret. About 6 months ago, I moved to a new city after graduating college at the end of 2022. I didn't want to stay in the city that I went to school in because I wanted something new and fresh. So, leaving nearly all of my friends behind, I did exactly that and was excited for my new start. But, well, I actually didn't meet anyone for the first 3 months. And by anyone, I mean I literally met 0 new people. Yeah, it was rough. So, one weekend, I went to visit my friend Doug in Washington, D.C. And to my surprise, he had an entire friend group of 10 plus people, and he'd only been living there a little bit longer than I'd been living in my new city. He moved from Florida to Washington, D.C., and I just moved to a new city in Florida. And yet he seemed to be much more successful in making new friends than I was. And why is that? Well, see, he got out of his comfort zone. And no, I don't mean, I gotta approach random people in the street and beg them to be friends with you. That's not how the modern world works anymore. After a few months of not knowing anyone, Doug decided to message a guy he found on TikTok asking if he wanted to meet up. The TikTok guy had a page where he posted day-in-the-life videos around the city and showed off the coolest places in DC. So Doug asked the guy if he could show him around. And believe it or not, the TikTok guy said yes. And now, months later, the duo are inseparable. They're basically best friends, and the TikTok guy introduced Doug to his entire friend group. Now, Doug has more dating options than ever before, a great, well-balanced friend group, and just really cool friends. But this has nothing to do with messaging some random person. It has more to do with who you become friends with. See, the TikTok guy was a connector, a person who knew a bunch of other people. And because Doug got connected with him and passed the vibe check, he now has access to TikTok guy's entire friend group. And that's what it takes. You don't need to network and talk to every single person in public to try to build a friend group. You just need to find the one person that will help to make the rest of the process easier for you. It's easier to build one solid connection than to try to manage a bunch of half thrown together ones at one time. So if you do this, you can actually make more friends. So, now that you get the backstory, let me tell you how I believe that you can actually make this happen. First of all, you gotta get out in public. While Doug's situation was unique because he simply messaged a guy on TikTok, the odds of that working out for people like you and I are pretty slim. Sure, if you see someone online that's doing cool stuff and you think you share something in common, reach out and shoot your shot. But trying to force something like that probably won't work. Which means you need to find a way to have interactions in the real world. The biggest hack for me is going to coffee shops. If you like coffee, work remote, or are in school and need to study, just do it in a coffee shop. These places are often full of other people who are trying to get out of the house, and almost everyone I've ever spoken to in a coffee shop seems to be willing to have a conversation. If they were really that against talking to you, or having social interactions in general, they probably would have just stayed at home. And a lot of coffee shops have those big communal tables where you can sit down and work or whatever, and you should definitely sit at those. While yes, a nice cozy table away from everyone in the corner looks like a solid spot, you aren't going to be able to talk to anyone from there. Almost every single interaction I've ever had in a coffee shop happened at one of those big tables where multiple people can sit in the same spot. So sit there and your odds are much higher that you'll see someone you want to talk to. And I know this sounds very specific, but you can kind of use these practices across the board. Anytime you're in public and you're staying at one location, whether it's a bookstore, a coffee shop, a library, doesn't matter, sit at the tables where you have a chance to interact with other people. The more you isolate yourself, the less you're going to be able to have those social interactions. So let's say you're at one of those tables and you see someone that you maybe want to talk to. You're probably asking, what am I supposed to say to them? How do I start a conversation? And the simple answer is to do that, you need to pay attention. You need to notice something that you can comment on or talk about. And honestly, this is way easier than you think. For example, what kind of stickers do they have on their laptop? Do they have one that relates to a hobby of yours? Comment on it. Did you overhear a conversation they had on the phone about an event that you're also going to? Comment on it. Does their drink look interesting? Ask them what they're drinking. Are they wearing a cool shirt or a hat for one of your favorite sports teams? Mention it. See, being aware of other people is the first way to start a conversation. You need something to bring up, to spark interest, and to get the ice broken. And if you pay attention, not in a weird way, but in a way with some subtle interest, you'll have opportunities. For example, let's say you hear the person at your coffee shop table next to you talking on the phone about a local restaurant or bar. When they hang up, just say, hey, sorry to interrupt you, but I heard you say something about whatever the bar is. Is that a good place to go out? I've heard about it, but I'm new here and I honestly don't really know what to do for fun. Think about if someone said that to you. Most of the time, as long as they're not just a super weird person, that's not going to come across as weird. And you aren't really infringing on anything because they're the ones having a loud conversation at a shared table in public. So, going to places like coffee shops and sitting around other people is the first step. The second step is finding something that interests you about them. The third step is starting a conversation. Now the door is open and you may become friends. But Solace, what if I don't see anything to comment about? Well, to be honest, for strictly platonic friendships, I kind of see this as a requirement. Nobody's going to want to be friends with you unless you can connect about something, so unless you see something that you can connect on, it's probably not worth exploring a conversation. If the person sitting next to you is wearing all black with no logos, using a plain laptop, typing on an Excel sheet, and drinking water with headphones on, yeah, the chances are that you're not going to have anything to connect about anyways, which means the friendship won't evolve. So look for that person that does have something that interests you and be genuine about it, and the spark will be more likely to appear. Forcing a conversation just because there's another human next to you isn't really worth it in my opinion, unless you see a way to take the conversation in a specific direction. And for me, the way to do that, again, is by looking at what they're doing, what they're wearing, what they're talking about, and then striking up a conversation. It takes playing the game to meet new people, and you aren't going to become friends with the first person you talk to. So the more you do it, the better your odds, which means it's okay to not talk to someone if you don't see something interesting. Again, if you force it, it's kind of weird. You need to genuinely express an interest in something that this person is doing or talking about. And this is just one example. People at a shared table in a coffee shop, but there are plenty of other ways to meet people. That one's just my favorite. If you live in a city, you need to go to a common gathering spot, a place where people flock to for a specific activity or regular occurrence. People at kava bars are extremely friendly, and they actually seem like some of the most social people I've ever met. I don't drink kava, and honestly I don't really know what it is, but if you do, maybe give that a try. Go to a farmer's market on weekends and walk around. They're super easy to go to by yourself, and nobody's going to think that you're weird if you're walking around solo at a farmer's market. When you're there, do the same thing. Pay attention, ask questions, and strike up conversations. Talk to the guy at the plant shop booth and ask him where he gets his plants from. Tell him about the houseplants that you have and ask him for his advice on how to keep them alive. Maybe that conversation evolves and you guys can connect and exchange contact information, and who knows where it goes from there. Talk to the girl at the vintage clothing spot and ask her how she picks out such interesting outfits. Talk about how you always have been interested in vintage clothing, but you never really know how to style your outfits. Maybe connect with her and talk about how she should take you to one of her favorite places. Again, gender, interest, hobbies, location aside, this is easily possible to do. There are 1,000 ways to take it, you just have to pay attention. And if those things don't interest you, you're going to need to pick up a hobby. The more things that you're interested in, the more things that you're going to be able to talk to people about. If you like board games, go to a local board game store and start talking to the guy working there, asking if there's any local meetups to play board games with people. If you like running, search on Instagram for a local run club and message them about joining. If you like rock climbing or bouldering, see where the nearest climbing gym is and go exercise there regularly and meet people. In fact, the climbing gym is actually one of my favorite places to meet people because I swear climbers are the friendliest and most welcoming people out there. I actually really recommend that one if you have a gym around you. And you don't even need to be athletic. It's a great experience, you get in good shape, and you grow pretty quickly with the hobby. Anyways, point is, there are tons of places where you can meet new people, but you're going to have to go to them in order to make new friends. Once you're there, pay attention. Don't sit around being in your head the whole time, don't put on headphones and listen to music, and don't check your phone every 5 seconds to ease the discomfort of being in public. There is 100% going to be discomfort, especially if you're new to this. But you gotta embrace it or you'll never get over it and you'll never make new friends. But I will say, there's more to it than just being in public. Making friends takes consistency. It's rare to make friends with someone after one interaction, so you want to find a way to continuously hang out with them or run into them again in public. If you meet them in a coffee shop and connect with them with your initial conversation, get their phone number or Instagram. Shoot them a text or DM next time you're planning on going there and invite them to join you. If you meet them at the rock climbing gym, do the same. If you meet them at a farmer's market or a monthly event of some kind, ask them if they're going to the next one and see if they want to join you. You need to get uncomfortable, take the risk, and be the one to ask, or nothing will happen. They probably also feel nervous asking you to do stuff as well, so one of you has to take the chance or you guys will never talk again. And what's the worst that'll happen? They say no? They think you're weird? Well, guess what? Who cares? There's some random person that if they think you're weird, you're probably gonna never see again anyways. So again, go out in public, show up regularly, see the same faces, talk to them, and invite them back out if the conversation goes well and you feel like you hit it off. If there's not a spark, don't force it, but the more you interact, the more the chances of that spark happening. And that's just one way to meet people. If you don't feel like going out, do what Doug did and reach out to someone you find online. Again, who cares if they think you're weird? You don't even know them. Join clubs, groups, organizations, etc. But no matter what, the best way to meet people is to be out in public and around people. There's really no way around it. Now, this discussion has been about meeting people in real life, but it's also nice to make new online friends too. Think about those Xbox Live days, playing with random people on the internet and queuing up in games. That was fun. The modern social media landscape breeds dissatisfaction with your life. I mean, why would you be happy with a well-paying 9-to-5 job? This guy is traveling the world with supermodels and making more than you in half the time. Why would you be okay with your one-bedroom apartment in a run-down but safe area? You know so-and-so online who lives in a penthouse in downtown Miami. There's always someone better looking, wealthier, happier, and better than you in basically every way, and you see this through their self-publicized adventures on platforms like Instagram. And you wish you were them. You long for the fame, the fortune, the girls, the physique, and the positive mindset that all of these people have. And I get it, the lifestyle looks amazing. But what if I told you that they probably long for what you and I have? The beauty of being unknown. Because here's the thing, a large overwhelming majority of the people that you see on social media are conformists. People who, by definition, conforms to a behavior accepted by the masses. Their entire online brand is based around not what they want to do, but what they expect other people to want to see. While again, there are always exceptions to rules like this, and there are no doubt some very authentic people who are famous on social media, a lot of the mainstream ones are at least somewhat of a conformist. So let's dive into this conformity thing and explain why it's a recipe for disaster and why, at the end, there is that sort of beauty of not being known. Let's say you have a gaming channel on YouTube. You post what you love for a few years and people really start to enjoy it. But, well, it's now been 3 years of making the same type of content and you want to change it up. So you try something new, something that this evolved version of you enjoys playing, talking about, or exploring. But, well, your audience doesn't like it. So, because you got hooked on the possibility of money, views, subscribers, and the need for endless growth, you go back to the old type of content that you've been making this whole time. You keep pumping out stuff that you don't want to make, and you start to hate it. You get lazy, your videos start declining in quality, and because of this, your viewers lose interest and start switching to watching channels that do what you do, but actually enjoys it. So, the quality of the content on these other channels is way better than yours, which causes your channel to look even worse until it slowly declines and eventually starts to die. This new YouTuber that your subscribers have switched to has the advantage here. Why? Because he isn't making content to conform. He's doing what he enjoys. His advantage is the same one that you had when you started, and since you conformed instead of embracing this type of content that you truly enjoy making, you lost. This sounds hyper-specific, but guess what, my friends? This was literally me on my main channel. I gained 450,000 subscribers and was pumping out subpar content just because I felt like I needed to, and it caused my channel and my mental state to decline. And this brings me back to the beauty of being unknown. See, the external pressure that comes from being known causes you to act not in your own interest, but in the interest of the people who know you. I didn't switch content styles because people wanted to see the version of me that they already knew. And that's why I started this channel, to have a clean slate and to do whatever I want with no pressure. And this doesn't only have to be related to social media fame. Think about the limitations that are sometimes put onto you by the expectations of family members and friends. Maybe you want to move to a new city, but your parents will judge you if you do. Maybe you want to pursue your passion in art, but you keep hearing advice from people who tell you that it doesn't make enough money. Maybe you want to date a girl that you really like, but your friends don't like her as much as you, so you decide to sit it out. There are countless examples out there of how external social pressures can cause you to live a life not authentic to yourself, and this is one of the reasons why there is a sort of beauty in being unknown. I keep touching on that, so let's actually dive into it. See, when you're unknown, you don't have the social pressures of conforming to other people's expectations. You can embrace your inner curiosity and desires and do what you want without caring about what the rest of the world thinks. Sure, you can still do this if you have friends and family, but at least for me, it is nearly impossible to live a 100% authentic life without caring at least a little bit about other people's reactions to it. I mean, look what happens when you see a celebrity or social media star do something that doesn't quite fit their brand identity, and look at the number of people who judge them for it. And even if you aren't famous, guess what? You still have a personal brand, and people will sometimes judge you when you do things that don't align with that brand. Regardless of the scale of how known a person is, not having this pressure from others really does allow for a sense of freedom that someone enamored by being known doesn't quite have. I mean, Elon Musk smoked weed for 2 minutes on Joe Rogan's podcast and Tesla stock dropped over 9%. Imagine having that level of attention on you where you can't even live a normal life. And this is exactly what I mean when I say that comparing yourself to people online or on social media is a pointless endeavor. Sure, the fame and opportunities seem great, but is it really worth it when you're being followed and judged every single moment of your life? But that's just the surface of this stuff. I want to dive a bit further into the nonconformity thing. See, a majority of people are average. I mean, that's literally the definition of average, so there's no denying that. So when you have specific interests, goals, and passions that don't align with the average person, it seems like a majority of the people are against you and that you don't really fit in with anyone. And I think this is one of the problems causing the loneliness epidemic in modern Western society. And this doesn't mean that you can't relate across the board and that nobody understands even a sliver of who you are. It just means that some things don't align, and every time these things don't align, you get some tension and anxiety from it. For example, when I told my friends that I bought a few albums on iTunes for the first time in like 10 years, because I'm not a fan of DRM and wanted to actually own some of my favorite music, they literally started laughing at me. Sure, I don't expect them to buy music that they really like, but that's my mentality on DRM and that's why I did it. I just wanted to share the experience with them, but because this action didn't align with the other aspects of my personality that these friends already knew about me, they judged my actions since they didn't conform to the ideas that they followed. Why would you buy music? Why don't you just use Apple Music like the rest of us? And this is the thing with being a true nonconformist and doing this across the board. You will have a lot of people who attack or judge you. I heard something on a podcast about a story involving monkeys in a science experiment. Basically, these monkeys were put into a cage that had food at the top of a tree. But the scientists shocked the monkeys every time they tried to climb the tree. So obviously, the monkeys stopped trying to climb the tree to get the food. They then took some of the monkeys out and put new ones in. And of course, the new ones, seeing the food, also tried to climb the tree. And they as well got shocked. But eventually, they stopped shocking the monkeys. And since the monkeys obviously knew that they got shocked in the past, they still didn't climb the tree. But here's where things get interesting. They started taking some of the old monkeys out and putting new ones in. New ones that had never gotten shocked. When these new ones saw the food, they also tried to climb. But this time, there was no shock. However, the monkeys that did get shocked started pulling the new ones out of the trees and beating them up. And the funny thing is, eventually, none of the monkeys in the cage had ever been shocked. They took out all of the ones that ever got shocked, and all the ones that were in there literally had never had that experience. But yet, when new ones were introduced every single time, the herd mentality of the ones that were still in there still pulled them down and beat them up, even though, like I said, none of them had ever gotten shocked at all. And this is conforming personified. When you do things that society at large doesn't agree with, they will pull you down from the tree and attack you every single time, even if they don't know why they're against the thing that you're doing in the first place. And being unknown means that these monkeys aren't there to judge you at all. So now, once you climb the tree and make it to the top, you'll feel like you accomplished something amazing. But guess what? Being a nonconformist doesn't mean being alone. Because little did you know, there was an entirely different group of monkeys at the top of the tree that have been chilling there the entire time. You couldn't see these monkeys from the ground, but now that you're at the top, you see how great they've had it. There's not only bananas up there, but there's every fruit imaginable. And that's the thing. Being a nonconformist may seem lonely, but that's only the case because you're half committed to the act. You have the urge to do something different, to climb the tree, but you also care too much about what the other monkeys think. But once you finally break free and make it to the top, there's a whole community of other nonconformists out there that have been embracing and living this lifestyle, and you can now relate to them because of the challenge that you've just been through. These people aren't the normal ones. They are the above average people, the ones who align with you on more things and the ones that you can truly connect with. At first, you didn't think they were there, but now that you see them and are living the lifestyle that they're living, you can connect on a deeper level than you ever could with the normal people. The normal people will forget about you, and now, with you being unknown to them, you can live an authentic life and connect with the others who share your vision. And that, my friends, is the beauty of being unknown. Sure, this doesn't mean that you have to cut everyone off and live a life of isolation, because being around people is important. But it shows that you need to live a life authentic to yourself, and once you do, it will pay dividends. And that's it for my first compilation. Again, the point of this compilation is to kind of create something where people who are having a bad day can watch it, maybe get their mind going a little bit, and hopefully have some thoughts that help to make their day a little better. Again, I realize not every video in this compilation is going to apply to you, so if some of them were boring or some of them you skipped, that's perfectly fine. I just hope it brought some sort of value to you. If you like this compilation, I could totally do more of them, so let me know in the comments what you actually think about it. Was this something that you find to be a waste of time, or is there value in it? And if you enjoyed, consider supporting the channel by buying me a coffee. I write pretty much every single one of these scripts at a coffee shop because I need to get out of my house to let my thoughts flow, so any coffee that you guys buy me is highly appreciated, and it does help to support this project. Stay tuned for more videos and more conversations like this, and we will talk again soon.